They met in the center of the clearing with the force of a lightning strike. Day ducked under the first swipe of the creature's claws and drove his spear upward, aiming for the gap in its armor under the arm. The Void Stalker twisted away and the spear scraped across its chitinous plates without penetrating. The creature's second arm came around in a backhand swing. Day raised his club to block, but the impact sent him flying backward. He hit the ground hard, the air knocked from his lungs, rolling to the side just in time to avoid the creature's foot coming down where his head had been. Day scrambled to his feet, circling. The Void Stalker matched his movement, its multiple eyes tracking him. It was faster than him, stronger than him, and had 4 arms to his 2. This was impossible. But Day had not come here to win. He had come here to make the creature remember him. He feinted left, then dove right, swinging his club at the creature's wounded shoulder. The impact connected with a satisfying crack. The Void Stalker shrieked and backed away, purple blood leaking from reopened wounds. "Not so easy, is it?" Day shouted. The creature responded by attacking with all 4 arms at once. Day blocked, dodged, and backed away, but he was not fast enough. Claws raked across his chest, tearing through his makeshift armor and cutting deep into his flesh. He gasped in pain but did not fall. They separated again, both bleeding now. The Void Stalker's clicking had changed. It was no longer mocking. It sounded almost like respect. Day knew he was running out of time. His wounds were bleeding heavily and the creature's reach was too long. He needed to get closer, inside its guard where those long arms would be less effective. He charged forward, not dodging or weaving, but running straight at the creature. It was so surprised by this suicidal attack that it hesitated for a fraction of a second. That was all Day needed. He slid between the creature's legs, his spear dragging along the ground. As he passed underneath, he thrust upward with all his remaining strength. The spear point found the softer armor on the creature's inner thigh and drove deep. The Void Stalker screamed and fell to one knee. Day rolled away and came up with his club, bringing it down on the creature's wounded shoulder again. The armor cracked and purple blood sprayed across the clearing, but the creature was far from finished. With its good arm, it grabbed Day by the leg and lifted him into the air. Day swung his club desperately, hitting the creature's head, its neck, anywhere he could reach. The Void Stalker slammed him into the ground once, twice, 3 times. Day felt ribs crack and tasted blood in his mouth. The creature raised Day up again, preparing to throw him. This would be the killing blow. Day looked into those alien eyes and saw his death. Then he remembered something. The creature always flinched when its right shoulder was hit. It was an instinctive reaction to protect the injury, and when it flinched, it exposed its neck. With the last of his strength, Day threw his club at the wounded shoulder. The creature flinched exactly as expected, its head tilting to the side. In that moment, its throat was completely exposed. Day still held his spear in his other hand. He drove it forward with everything he had left. The spear point punched through the softer flesh under the creature's jaw, angling upward. It should have gone straight into the brain, but at the last instant, Day stopped. The spear tip pressed against the critical point, one push away from death. The Void Stalker froze, its eyes wide. It knew it was defeated. They stayed like that for a long moment. Day hanging in the creature's grip, his spear pressed to its throat. The creature holding him but unable to move without killing itself. Then Day pulled the spear back. The creature dropped him. Day hit the ground and lay there unable to move. Every part of his body hurt. He could not tell if he was dying or not. The Void Stalker stood over him, looking down. It could kill him easily now. Day had nothing left to fight with. But the creature did not attack. Instead, it lowered itself down, all 4 arms touching the ground in what looked like a bow. Then it made a sound Day had not heard before. A low, deep thrumming that seemed to come from its chest. It was not aggressive or mocking. It sounded almost gentle. Day tried to speak but only coughed up blood. The creature watched him, its head tilted in what might have been concern. "Why? Didn't you kill me?" Day finally managed to say. The Void Stalker reached out with one clawed hand. Day flinched, expecting death. But the creature touched his chest gently over his heart. Then it touched its own chest in the same place. Then it pointed to the sky. Day did not understand. The creature tried again, this time drawing shapes in the blood-soaked dirt. 2 figures fighting, one standing over the other. Then the victor helping the defeated up. "You respect me?" Day asked. "Because I fought well?" The creature thrummed again, louder this time. It seemed pleased that Day understood. "But you killed my friends." The Void Stalker's clicking became sad, apologetic almost. It drew more shapes in the dirt. Day could not understand all of them, but the message was clear. The creature was old, past its prime. It had been seeking one final great hunt before it died. It had not expected to find a worthy opponent. Certainly not a human. So what now? Day asked. I can't fight anymore. Are you going to finish me? The creature stood and walked to the edge of the clearing. It returned dragging something, their medical supplies which had been lost days ago. It placed them beside Day, then backed away. Day stared at the medical kit in disbelief. You want me to heal? The Void Stalker thrummed and nodded. Then it turned and walked into the jungle. Day lay there for what felt like hours, staring at the sky through the canopy. His body was broken, his friends were dead, and somehow he had survived. More than survived. He had earned the respect of a creature that had tried to kill him. Eventually, with trembling hands, he opened the medical kit and began treating his wounds. The AudioBook inside the kit did most of the work, sealing cuts and injecting medicine for the pain and infection. It would take days for him to heal, but he would live. As the sun set, he heard movement in the jungle. The Void Stalker emerged, carrying a dead animal. It placed the fresh kill near Day's camp, then retreated again. You're feeding me now? Day called out weakly. The creature thrummed in response. Over the next days, a strange pattern developed. Day would wake to find food waiting for him. The creature would appear at the edge of the camp, watching but not approaching. Day began to leave bandages and medicine near the tree line, and they would disappear during the night. They were taking care of each other. On the fifth day, Day was strong enough to walk. He went to the clearing where they had fought. The blood had long since been washed away by rain, but the ground was still torn up from their battle. The Void Stalker appeared, looking better. Its wounds were healing, though it still favored its right shoulder. They stood across from each other just as they had before, but this time Day did not raise a weapon. Instead, he extended his hand. The creature looked at the hand for a long moment. Then it reached out with one clawed hand and gently touched Day's palm. Its touch was surprisingly careful, mindful of its sharp claws. I should kill you for what you did to Hana and Quan, Day said quietly, but I think they would understand. You're a predator. You were just doing what predators do. The Void Stalker thrummed softly. I'm going to call you Patches, Day continued, because of all the wounds and bandages we've given each other. The creature tilted its head as if considering the name. Then it thrummed again, seeming to accept it. Day smiled despite himself. Patches. The most dangerous predator on Verdaxis 7, and I've named it like a pet cat. Patches clicked its mandibles in what Day was learning to recognize as amusement. They stood together in the clearing as the sun set. Human and alien, former enemies now bound by mutual respect and survival. The attack came just before dawn. Day heard movement in the darkness and shook Hana awake. They both grabbed their weapons and pressed themselves against a large tree trunk. The clicking sound had returned, but it was different now. Faster, angrier. The shimmer appeared at 3 different points around the camp simultaneously. Day's blood went cold. Either there were multiple creatures or this one was moving so fast it seemed to be in several places at once. Hana, stay behind me, Day said. The shimmer rushed forward from the left. Day swung his spear but hit only air. The creature had dodged at the last second. He felt claws rake across his back, cutting through his jacket and drawing blood. He rolled forward, coming up in a defensive stance. Run! He shouted to Hana. Get to the rocks. Hana ran, but the creature appeared in front of her. One of its clawed arms reached out, almost lazy in its movement. Day threw his spear with all his strength. The weapon flew through the air and struck the creature's already wounded shoulder. It howled in pain and turned away from Hana. Go! Day screamed. Hana disappeared into the jungle, heading for the rocky outcrop where they had spent the previous day. Day was alone with the creature now. The Void Stalker dropped its camouflage. Its eyes fixed on Day, and in those alien eyes he saw pure rage. The creature charged, all 4 arms extended, claws ready to tear him apart. Day dove to the side, rolling across the ground. He came up running, heading for the pit trap he had prepared. The creature followed, moving impossibly fast. Day could hear its footsteps pounding behind him, getting closer. He leaped over the covered pit at the last second. Behind him, he heard the crack of breaking branches and then a crash. He turned and saw the creature had fallen into the pit, landing on the sharpened stakes below. But its thick armor had protected it from the worst of the damage. It was already climbing out, more furious than ever. Day ran. He had no weapon, no plan, only the desperate need to survive. He could hear the creature behind him crashing through the jungle. He ran toward the rocky outcrop, hoping Hana had made it to safety. He found her hiding behind a boulder, tears streaming down her face. "Day, we can't win. We have to hide." "No," Day said, breathing hard. "Hiding just delays it. We have to—" The creature burst into the clearing. It moved toward them slowly now, savoring the moment. Day and Hana backed up against the rocks, trapped. Then they heard a new sound, a whistle high and sharp coming from above. The Voidstalker paused, its head turning toward the sound. Another whistle answered from a different direction. "What is that?" Hana whispered. Day looked up and saw movement in the trees. More shimmers, multiple ones. His heart sank. More Voidstalkers. They were finished, but the new creatures did not attack. Instead, they seemed to be communicating with the first one through a series of whistles and clicks. The wounded Voidstalker responded, its clicking rapid and aggressive. The conversation went on for several minutes while Day and Hana remained frozen against the rocks. Finally, the other creatures left, disappearing into the jungle. The original Voidstalker stood alone, watching them. Something had changed in its posture. It seemed less aggressive, more thoughtful. Then it turned and walked away, vanishing into the morning mist. "What just happened?" Hana asked. "I think we just got a reprieve," Day said. "Maybe the others told it to stop playing. Maybe they have rules about hunting." They waited an hour before moving. When they finally left the rocks, they found the camp was untouched. The creature had not destroyed anything else. It was a sign, though Day was not sure what it meant. Over the next 2 days, the pattern changed. The Voidstalker still followed them, but it did not attack. Instead, it left things for them. Dead animals that were safe to eat. Water sources marked with scratched symbols on trees. Even their missing supplies placed carefully where they would find them. "It's helping us?" Hana said, confused. "I don't think so," Day replied. "I think it's making sure we stay healthy, so the hunt can continue properly." On the 3rd day, Hana was taken. Day had gone to gather water from a nearby stream. When he returned, she was gone. No signs of struggle, no blood, just gone. He searched for hours, following tracks and broken branches. Finally, he found her. She was hanging from a tree, her body carefully displayed like the trophies he had seen before. But this was different. This was personal. The creature had left her ID badge arranged on her chest, just like it had done with Quan. Day fell to his knees. All the fear, all the running, all the planning had not been enough. Hana was dead. Quan was dead. He was alone, something broke inside him. The fear drained away, replaced by something cold and hard. He looked at Hana's body one last time, then turned toward the jungle. "You want to hunt?" he screamed into the trees. "Then let's really hunt. No more games. No more mercy. You and me, right now." The clicking sound came from his right. Day turned and saw the Voidstalker standing there, fully visible. It had been watching him the whole time. "Come on," Day shouted. "You killed my friends. You think that makes you strong? I'll show you what humans are really like when you push us too far." The creature tilted its head, studying him. Then it made a sound that was almost like a question. Day picked up a sharp rock and cut his palm, letting blood drip onto the ground. "I challenge you. 1-on-1. No tricks, no traps. Just us." The Voidstalker clicked its mandibles slowly. It seemed to understand. It reached down with one clawed hand and drew a line in the dirt between them. Then it gestured to Day and to itself. "Tomorrow at dawn," Day said. "In the clearing where you first showed yourself to us. We finish this." The creature stared at him for a long moment, then nodded. It actually nodded. A gesture it must have learned from watching humans. Then it turned and walked away. Day spent the rest of the day preparing. He was done being prey. Done running. Done being afraid. The creature wanted a worthy hunt. He would give it a war. He fashioned better weapons from the wreckage at camp. A spear with a sharpened metal tip. A club studded with fragments of their broken equipment. He wrapped his arms and legs with thick fabric for protection. He ate well, hydrated, and rested. As the sun set, he stood at Hana's grave. He had buried her properly, marking the spot with stones. Beside her, he had made a marker for Quan. "I'll make it pay," he promised them. "For both of you." That night he slept. Not the terrified half-sleep of the past days, but deep, dreamless rest. His body knew what was coming and prepared itself. When dawn came, Day walked to the clearing. His weapons were ready, his mind was clear. The Voidstalker was already there, waiting. It had removed some of its armor plates, evening the odds. This was not an ambush. This was a duel. They stood across from each other in the gray morning light. The jungle was silent, as if every creature was watching. Day raised his spear and pointed it at the Void Stalker. "Let's go." The creature roared, a sound that shook the trees. Then it charged, and Day charged right back. Dawn came slowly to Verdaxis 7. Day had not slept at all during the night. Every sound made him alert. Every shadow drew his attention. Hana had managed a few hours of restless sleep, but she looked exhausted when she woke. "Did it come back?" she asked. "3 times, Day replied. "It circled the shuttle, just watching us." They ate a cold breakfast from their ration packs. Hot food would mean going outside to use their cooking equipment, and neither of them wanted to leave the safety of the shuttle yet. "We need a plan," Hana said. "We can't just sit here forever." Day pulled out his datapad and brought up a map of the area. "The emergency beacon is in our main camp. If we can reach it and activate it, the orbital station will send help. That's our best option. That's a kilometer away. Through the jungle. With that thing out there." "I know." Day looked at the damaged fuel lines. "I might be able to patch these enough for a short flight. But it would take hours and we'd be exposed the whole time." Hana was quiet for a moment. "What does it want? Why is it doing this?" Day thought about the destroyed communication equipment, the damaged shuttle, the way the creature had watched them but not attacked. "It's hunting us for sport. In its mind, we're prey that can think, that can be afraid. That makes us interesting. That's sick. That's nature. On Earth, cats play with mice before killing them. Some animals hunt for fun, not just food. This creature is just doing what it evolved to do." They decided to try for the emergency beacon. They spent an hour preparing, gathering weapons and supplies. Day fashioned a spear from a broken support rod and some metal sheeting. It was crude, but it was better than nothing. The journey back to the main camp was terrifying. Every few minutes, Day would see that shimmer in the air, always at the edge of their vision. The creature was following them, staying just out of reach. Sometimes they would hear sounds in the jungle. Kwan's voice calling for help or Hana's voice from a different direction. But they both knew it was the creature somehow mimicking human speech. "Don't listen," Day said. "Keep moving." They reached the camp just after midday. It had been torn apart. Their tents were shredded. Equipment was scattered everywhere. And in the center of the camp, arranged carefully on a flat rock, were pieces of Kwan. His hands, his boots, his ID badge. Like trophies, Hana turned away and vomited. Day felt his stomach twist, but he forced himself to stay calm. Anger would not help them survive. The emergency beacon was missing. Day searched through the wreckage but could not find it anywhere. "It took the beacon," he said. "It knew exactly what to take. How? How can it know about our technology?" Day remembered something from the planetary survey. The file said void stalkers are highly intelligent. Maybe it's been watching other human expeditions, learning. A sound made them both freeze. The clicking of mandibles very close. They turned slowly and saw the creature for the first time without its camouflage. It stood 3 meters tall, with a body covered in dark, chitinous plates. 4 arms extended from its torso, each ending in curved claws that looked sharp enough to cut through steel. Its head was triangular, with multiple eyes arranged in a pattern that gave it nearly 360-degree vision. The mandibles clicked together rhythmically, producing that horrible laughing sound. Day raised his makeshift spear, knowing it was useless against such a creature, but he would not die without fighting. The Void Stalker tilted its head, studying them. Then it reached behind itself and pulled out the emergency beacon. It held it up, showing it to them, and then crushed it slowly in one clawed hand. The metal crumpled like paper, then it vanished. The camouflage activated, and it was gone. "It's mocking us," Hana whispered. Day's mind raced. The creature was intelligent, patient, and clearly enjoyed their fear. But it had made a mistake. It had shown itself. Now Day knew what they were facing. He could plan, adapt. "We're not going to run anymore," Day said. "What?" "Running is what prey does. If we keep running, we'll die tired. We need to change the situation. How do we fight that thing? Did you see it? It's massive." Day looked around the destroyed camp. "We use what we know. I've been tracking and hunting animals my whole life. This creature is intelligent, but it's still following patterns. It hunts at dawn and dusk. It likes high ground for ambush. And it's arrogant." "Arrogant?" "It crushed that beacon instead of just taking it. It wanted us to see. That means it's confident, maybe overconfident. Confident predators make mistakes. They spent the rest of the day setting up traps around the camp. Day used the techniques he had learned on Earth. Pit traps covered with leaves, tripwires connected to sharpened stakes, deadfalls weighted with heavy rocks. Hana helped, though her hands shook the entire time. As the sun began to set, they heard the clicking sounds getting closer. The creature was coming. Get to the high ground, Day told Hana, pointing to a rocky outcrop. If things go wrong, run for the shuttle. Don't wait for me. Day, just do it. Hana climbed up to the rocks while Day positioned himself near the largest trap, a pit he had dug and filled with sharpened stakes. The clicking grew louder. The shimmer appeared at the edge of the clearing. Day stood still, spear ready. He needed the creature to come closer to step into the trap zone. It moved forward slowly, enjoying the moment. Day could feel its eyes on him, studying his fear. But Day was not afraid anymore. He was focused. The creature stepped onto the covered pit trap. For a moment, Day thought it had worked. Then the creature looked down, looked back at Day, and stepped carefully around the trap. It had seen through the disguise, but while it was looking down, it triggered a tripwire. A deadfall trap released, and a massive log swung down from the trees, studded with metal fragments. The creature tried to dodge, but the log caught its right shoulder, tearing through the chitinous armor and drawing purple blood. The Void Stalker screamed, a sound like tearing metal. It stumbled back, clutching its wounded shoulder. For the first time it had been hurt. Day felt a surge of satisfaction. The creature had underestimated him. It thought he was just prey. The Void Stalker looked at Day with what seemed like surprise, then anger. The clicking stopped. The game had changed. The creature activated its camouflage and vanished into the jungle, moving fast despite its injury. Hana climbed down from the rocks. You heard it. Barely, Day said. But now it knows we can fight back. It won't be so careful anymore. It'll try to kill us quickly now. Is that good or bad? Day picked up his spear and looked at the purple blood on the ground. I don't know yet, but at least now it's not just playing with us. That night they did not sleep. They sat back to back in the center of the camp, weapons ready, waiting for the creature to return. The jungle around them was silent except for the wind through the trees. Somewhere in that darkness, the Void Stalker was planning its next move. And so was Day. The shuttle touched down on Verdaxis 7 with a soft hiss of landing gear. Dahan stepped out first, his boots sinking slightly into the moss-covered ground. The air was thick and warm, filled with strange scents he had never encountered before. Above him, the canopy stretched endlessly, blocking out most of the orange sunlight from the system's star. Stay close to the shuttle until we set up the perimeter, Day said. Turning to his teammates, Hana, the team medic, nodded and began unloading medical supplies. She was young but skilled, fresh from the Colonial Medical Academy. Quan, their xenobotanist, was already distracted by a strange purple plant growing near the landing site. He pulled out his scanner and started taking readings. Quan, focus, Day called out. We secure the area first, then you can play with the plants. Quan looked up sheepishly and put away his scanner. Sorry, it's just so exciting. Look at this ecosystem. Day understood the excitement. He had been on dozens of survey missions, but each new planet brought fresh wonders. Still, excitement could get you killed. He had learned that lesson years ago on a colony world where his mentor had been killed by a creature they thought was harmless. The first 2 days passed without incident. They set up their base camp, established a communication link with the orbital station, and began their preliminary surveys. The jungle was alive with sounds, chirping, buzzing, distant roars. Day cataloged them all, noting which ones might indicate danger. On the third morning, everything changed. Day woke before dawn, as he always did. The jungle had a rhythm, and he liked to listen to it in the quiet hours. But something was wrong. The usual morning chorus of creatures was absent. The jungle was completely silent. He sat up in his tent, his hand instinctively reaching for the plasma cutter he kept beside his sleeping bag. Silence in nature meant one thing. A predator was nearby and everything else was hiding. Day quietly unzipped his tent and stepped outside. The camp looked normal. Hana's tent was still closed and Quan's was slightly open as usual because he liked the fresh air. The fire they had used for cooking the night before was just cold ashes now. He walked slowly around the perimeter, checking the motion sensors they had placed. All of them were active, showing no alerts. But Day trusted his instincts more than technology. Something was out there watching them. He approached Quan's tent.
"Quan, you awake?"
"No answer, Quan," Day said louder, pulling back the tent flap. The tent was empty. The sleeping bag was torn open and there was blood. Not much, just a few drops on the fabric. Day's heart began to race. He looked at the ground and saw drag marks leading away from the tent into the jungle. "Hana, get up now!" Day shouted, abandoning any attempt at quiet. Hana emerged from her tent, her hair messy from sleep. "What's wrong?" "Quan's gone. Something took him." They grabbed weapons and followed the drag marks. The trail was easy to follow at first, with broken branches and disturbed undergrowth. But after 50 meters, the trail simply vanished. Whatever had taken Quan had either started carrying him or had covered its tracks. Day knelt down, examining the last clear track. It was a footprint pressed deep into the soft earth. The print was massive, easily 40 centimeters long, with 3 prominent toes ending in claw marks. But what caught his attention was the shape. It was almost humanoid, suggesting a bipedal creature. "We need to get back to the shuttle and call for evacuation," Hana said, her voice shaking. Day stood up, his jaw set. "Agreed, but we need to be smart about this. Whatever took Quan is still out there." They returned to camp and tried to use the communication array. The equipment was dead. Day opened the panel and found the internal components had been carefully destroyed, not torn apart by claws, but methodically dismantled. "It knows what it's doing," Day said quietly. "This isn't just an animal hunting for food. This is intelligent." Hana's face went pale. "What are we dealing with?" Day pulled up his datapad and searched through the planetary survey files. Most of the fauna on Verdaxis 7 had been cataloged from orbit and automated drone surveys. He found what he was looking for: void stalker, apex predator, solitary hunter, highly intelligent, dangerous to approach. The file had a warning in red text: known to hunt for sport. Avoid all contact. "We need to reach the shuttle," Day said. They packed quickly, taking only essential supplies. The shuttle was a kilometer away through the jungle. It should have been an easy walk, but now every shadow seemed threatening, every sound made them jump. They were halfway to the shuttle when Day saw it. Just a shimmer in the air, like heat waves rising from hot pavement. But the air here was cool in the shade. He grabbed Hana's arm and pulled her down behind a fallen log. "What?" she whispered. "There," he pointed. The shimmer moved between 2 trees, roughly man-shaped but much larger. As they watched, it stopped. Then slowly, very slowly, it turned toward them. Day couldn't see eyes or a face, just the distortion of light, but he knew it was looking right at them. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the shimmer faded as the creature moved away, making no sound at all. "It's playing with us," Day said. "It knows we're here. It could have attacked, but it didn't. Why? Because it's having fun." They waited 10 minutes before moving again. When they finally reached the shuttle, Day's worst fears were confirmed. The landing gear had been damaged, bent at angles that would make takeoff impossible without repairs. The fuel lines had been cut cleanly. They were trapped. That night they barricaded themselves inside the shuttle. Day took first watch while Hana tried to sleep. He stared out the small window at the dark jungle. Somewhere out there the creature was waiting. It had killed Quan, destroyed their communications, and disabled their shuttle. All with precision and intelligence. Day had hunted dangerous animals before. He had tracked tigers on Earth, radiation wolves on Gamma Station, and acid spitters on the mining colonies. But he had never been the prey before. He looked at his reflection in the window. His face was tired, but his eyes were sharp. If this creature wanted to hunt him, then he would make it the hardest hunt of its life. "Come on then," he whispered to the darkness. "Let's see who's better at this game." Outside, something moved in the shadows. And then, carried on the night breeze, came a sound like clicking mandibles, almost like laughter. 3 weeks had passed since the duel. Day had fully recovered from his wounds, leaving only scars as reminders. Patches had also healed, though it still moved carefully when using its right shoulder. They had fallen into a routine that would have seemed impossible just a month ago. Each morning, Day would wake to find Patches sitting near the camp, waiting. They would hunt together, with Day using his knowledge of tracking and strategy, while Patches provided raw power and senses far beyond human capability. They caught prey that Day could never have taken alone, and Patches seemed to enjoy the challenge of coordinated hunting. Day had learned to read the creature's body language. The rapid clicking meant excitement or happiness. The slow, deep thrumming meant contentment. The high-pitched whistle meant danger. They could not speak each other's languages, but they communicated well enough. On this particular morning, Day was teaching Patches to understand human gestures. He pointed at a tree and Patches looked at it. He made a cutting motion and Patches used its claws to mark the bark. Simple things, but important for building trust. Good, Day said. You're learning fast. Patches thrummed and tilted its head. Then it pointed at the sky with one clawed hand. Day looked up and his heart skipped. There was a ship descending through the clouds. A rescue ship. He had almost forgotten that they were supposed to send help. Oh no, Day said. They're coming for me. Patches, you need to hide. But Patches did not move. It stood beside Day, watching the ship land in the clearing. The side door opened and armed soldiers emerged first, scanning for threats. Then a woman in a colonial uniform stepped out. She had captain's insignia on her collar. Day-Han, she called out. I'm Captain Yuna. We're here to rescue you. Day walked forward, keeping Patches behind him. I'm here. I'm alive, Yuna's eyes widened as she saw Patches. Everyone weapons up. Void Stalker. The soldiers raised their plasma rifles, all aimed at Patches. Day moved quickly, putting himself between the guns and the creature. No, don't shoot. Day, get away from it, Yuna ordered. Those things are extremely dangerous. I know what it is. It's with me. Yuna stared at him like he had lost his mind. With you? That creature killed your teammates. We found the reports from your automated logs. I know, Day said quietly. It did kill them. But things have changed. Move aside. We're putting it down. You'll have to shoot me first. The clearing fell silent. The soldiers looked at each other uncertainly. Yuna stepped forward, her hand on her sidearm but not drawing it. Day, I understand you've been through trauma. Sometimes isolation and stress can cause... I'm not crazy, Day interrupted. I know how this looks. But this creature and I fought. I defeated it in combat, and instead of killing it, I spared it. In its culture, that means something. It's bonded to me now. Its culture? You can't know that. Day turned to Patches. Show them. Patches lowered itself to the ground, all four arms spread wide in a submissive posture. Not just to Day, but to all the humans present. It was acknowledging them as a group, as a pack. The soldiers murmured in surprise. This was not normal Void Stalker behavior. They're apex predators, Day explained. They hunt for sport and honor. When I beat it in fair combat, it saw me as an equal, maybe even superior. It's not my pet. It's my partner. Yuna studied Patches carefully. Even if what you're saying is true, we can't just let you take an apex predator back to human space. The regulations, I don't care about regulations. This creature saved my life after I saved its life. We have an understanding. An understanding that got 2 people killed. The words hit Day hard. He thought about Hana and Quan buried in the jungle. I know, and I'll carry that guilt forever. But killing Patches won't bring them back. And it won't change what it is. Predators hunt. That's their nature. But this one has learned there's a different way. Yuna was quiet for a long moment. Then she sighed. This is above my authority. We'll need to contact the Colonial Science Division. They'll want to study this situation. Fine, but Patches comes with me. Non-negotiable. It needs to wear a tracking collar, and you'll be responsible for its actions. Agreed. They fitted Patches with a tracking collar which the creature tolerated with surprising patience. Day suspected it understood these humans could kill it if it resisted. During the fitting, one of the soldiers got too close and Patches snapped its mandibles in warning. Everyone jumped back except Day. Easy, Day said, placing a hand on Patches' arm. They're not enemies. Patches thrummed low and relaxed. The soldiers stared in amazement. Before they left for Daxus 7, Day insisted on visiting the graves one last time. Patches followed him, moving silently through the jungle. They stood before the markers for Hana and Quan. I'm sorry, Day said to the graves. I couldn't save you. But I promise your deaths weren't meaningless. Because of what happened here, we've proven that humans and aliens can understand each other, even former enemies. Maybe that's worth something. Patches made a sound Day had not heard before, a low, mournful tone that sounded almost like grief. The creature had learned the concept of honoring the dead. You understand, don't you, Day said. They were my pack, like the other Voidstalkers are your pack. Patches thrummed softly and touched Day's shoulder with one clawed hand. Gentle, careful not to hurt him. The journey back to human space took 3 weeks. Patches had to stay in a special cargo hold designed for dangerous fauna, but Day visited every day. He brought food, checked the creature's wounds, and just sat with it. The crew thought he was insane, but they could not deny the bond between them. Word had spread fast. By the time they reached the orbital station, there was a crowd waiting. Scientists, journalists, military officials, all wanting to see the human who had tamed a void stalker. Tamed is the wrong word. Day told them repeatedly, "I didn't tame anything. We came to an understanding through combat and mutual respect." The Colonial Science Division wanted to separate them, to study Patches in isolation. Day refused. After 3 days of negotiations, they reached a compromise. Patches could stay with Day, but they would both work for the Xenobiological Survey Corps, studying dangerous planets and their fauna. It was better than Day had hoped for. He had thought they would confine Patches or even euthanize it. Instead, they would work together. Their first mission came a month later. A colony world had reported attacks by a pack of aggressive predators. The colonists wanted them exterminated. Day and Patches were sent to assess the situation. When they arrived, Day studied the attack patterns. These creatures are protecting their territory. The colony was built right in their nesting grounds. So we kill them? The colony administrator asked. No, we relocate them. Patches can communicate with them. They'll understand pack territory better than we can. It took 2 weeks, but Patches managed to lead the predator pack to a new territory away from the colony. No creatures died, and the colonists were safe. The mission was considered a massive success. More missions followed. Everywhere they went, the story spread. A human survival expert and a reformed apex predator working together. Some called it impossible. Others called it inspiring. Alien species who had dismissed humans as weak began to reconsider. If a single human could turn a void stalker into an ally through pure combat skill and respect, what else were humans capable of? 6 months after leaving Verdaxis 7, Day and Patches were resting between missions. They sat on a hilltop overlooking a human settlement watching the sunset. "You know," Day said, "when you first hunted me, I thought I was going to die. I never imagined we'd end up here." Patches thrummed and clicked its mandibles in what Day recognized as laughter. "Yeah, I know. Life is strange." Day looked at the scars on his arms, reminders of their battle. "Thank you for not killing me, by the way." Patches reached over and gently tapped Day's chest over his heart. Then it tapped its own chest. The gesture they had developed meant respect, friendship, pack. "Right back at you, Patches." As the sun set, a ship approached. It was their next assignment. A frontier world with an unknown predator problem. "Dangerous, probably deadly. Ready for another adventure?" Day asked. Patches stood and stretched all 4 arms, then thrummed deeply. It was always ready. They walked down the hill together, human and alien, toward whatever challenge waited next. Behind them, the sun disappeared below the horizon, and ahead, the stars beckoned with infinite possibilities. Somewhere in human space, the story was being told and retold. The legend of the survival expert who faced the apex hunter and turned it into a partner. Who proved that respect could bridge the gap between species. Who showed that humans, when pushed to their limits, would not break but adapt. The legend of Daehan and Patches, the most unlikely team in the galaxy, and the legend was only beginning.